The coins clicked softly against each other as 8-year-old Eli Carter dumped them onto the carpet. Quarters rolled toward the couch. Pennies spun in weak circles, then fell flat. He dropped to his knees and started sorting them fast, his small fingers moving with the skill of a boy who had done this too many times before. Then he heard his mother cough. It came from the other room, deep and wet, like something tearing loose inside her chest. Eli froze with a dime in his hand. The little studio apartment around him felt even smaller then. The radiator knocked in the corner. Pipes groaned in the wall. Morning light slipped through the blinds in thin gray lines. He looked down at the stacks of coins and swallowed hard. How was he supposed to save her with this? He finished counting anyway. $48.12. Not enough. Not even close. He stood and carried a chipped mug of water into the bedroom. His mother, Lily Carter, sat up against 2 flat pillows, trying to smile, like she had not just coughed until she shook. Her hair, once bright and thick, now lay around her face in tired dark waves. She still looked beautiful to him, just in a way that hurt to see. "I brought water," Eli said, "my brave boy." Her fingers brushed his cheek. Her skin felt too warm. "Did you sleep?" He nodded. She gave him a look that said she knew better, but she let it pass. Eli climbed onto the bed beside her and leaned carefully against her shoulder. For a moment, neither of them spoke. He listened to her breathing. In and out. In and out. Every breath felt important now. "Mom?" "Yes, baby." He stared at the water stain on the ceiling. "Why don't I have a dad?" Her body went still. Not stiff, just quiet in that way people got when a memory walked into the room before they were ready. She turned her head and looked at him for a long moment. There was sadness in her eyes, but something else too. Something old. Something unfinished. "You do have a father," she said softly. "Then where is he?" She looked down at the blanket, smoothing a wrinkle with her hand. Far away. "Is he dead?" "No." "Then why doesn't he come?" His voice cracked on the last word. He hated that. He wanted to sound strong, grown, useful, not like a little kid asking a question he had carried around for years. She pulled him close and kissed his hair. "Some people get lost behind walls they didn't know they were building," she whispered. "Your father got lost a long time ago." Eli sat very still. That was not a real answer. He knew that, and she knew it too. But he also knew she was tired, antic, and trying to protect him from something sharp. So he just nodded and slid off the bed. "I'm making toast," he said. "With grape jelly?" "With extra." That made her smile for real. My favorite. He got to the doorway, then turned back. "I love you." Her eyes softened. "I love you more than all the stars and all the fish in the ocean and all the grains of sand on every beach," he finished. Their little promise, their little prayer. By noon, he had made toast, washed the dishes, folded the blanket at the foot of her bed, and made a choice no 8-year-old should ever have to make. He waited until she was asleep. Then he pulled the old shoebox from under her bed. Inside were folded letters, a silver bracelet with a broken clasp, and one faded instant photo. He had found it once before and never forgot it. His mother stood in front of a lighthouse, younger and laughing, her hair flying wild in the wind. Beside her stood a tall man with one arm around her waist. He was smiling too. Eli stared at the man's face. Same eyes, same mouth, same shape to the jaw. On the back, in his mother's careful handwriting, were 2 lines. "Where love began. R. Blackwell, Halcyon Tower, Chicago." Chicago. He had looked it up at the library 2 weeks ago after one of the nurses whispered that medicine cost money and money did not fall from the sky. Halcyon Tower was real. Reed Blackwell was real. Billionaire. Biotech king. Younger than people expected. Colder than newspapers could admit. And if his mother was telling the truth, he was Eli's father. He packed the photo, a peanut butter sandwich, and the crumpled paper where he had written the address. Then he kissed his mother's forehead while she slept and whispered, "I'll be back before dinner." The bus station smelled like oil, coffee, and old rain. The ride into downtown Chicago felt too long and too loud. Eli sat by the window clutching his backpack, watching the city rise taller and sharper with every Mautglasstowers. Glass, endless traffic, men in dark coats, women walking fast with cups in their hands, and nowhere in their faces for a little boy to fit. Halcyon Tower looked like it had been built for giants. Black glass, steel, 80 floors of money and power. Eli stood across the street and watched. He watched the front doors, security in dark suits, a reception desk bright as a hospital, polished floors, people with badges. No chance that way. So he waited. He watched workers come and go from the loading entrance on the side. Delivery men, cleaners, catering staff. Then he saw a hotel food truck pull up. 2 men rolled silver carts under long white cloths toward the service entrance. Eli's heart started pounding. It was a bad plan. It was the only plan. He slipped across the sidewalk, ducked behind the truck, and slid beneath one of the carts just before it moved. The cloth hung low enough to hide him. He curled into the smallest shape he could manage and held his breath. The service elevator smelled like garlic and floor cleaner. Men talked above him about overtime and football. The cart rattled over the metal floor. Numbers dinged overhead. 20, 30, 50. Higher and higher until one voice said, "Executive level. Move it." The cart rolled out. Eli could hear many voices now. Calm voices with stress under them. Words about trials, delays, investors, risk. Then the cart stopped. A hand lifted the cloth. A man with a tray of glasses looked down and nearly dropped them. "What the?" The tray shattered. Someone yelled. Hands reached. Eli shot out from under the cart and ran. He did not know where he was going. He only knew he had to get away before they dragged him out. He pushed through a glass door and stumbled into a huge conference room. Everything stopped. A long, polished table, screens glowing on the walls, men and women in expensive clothes. Silence so sudden it rang in his ears. At the front of the room stood a man in a dark suit. Eli knew him at once. Older than the photo. Harder, too. His face looked carved now, all sharp lines and control. But the eyes were the same. Eli had seen those eyes in the mirror every morning of his life. A blonde woman near the table stood up fast. "Security! Get him out!" 2 guards moved toward Eli. Then the man lifted one hand. "Wait!" His voice was cool, deep, controlled. He walked around the table slowly and stopped in front of Eli. Up close, he seemed even taller, more distant somehow, like a man used to standing above everyone in every room. "Well," he said, glancing at the guards, then back at Eli. "This is new." A few people laughed nervously. The man slid one hand into his pocket. "Who are you, kid? And how exactly did you get into my building?" Eli's throat felt tight, but he lifted his chin. "My name is Eli Carter. I came from South Side." He swallowed. "My mom is Lily Carter. She's really sick, and she said you're my father." A murmur moved around the room. The man's face did not change at first. Then a smile touched his mouth. It was not a kind smile. It was the kind adults used when they thought children were foolish and poor people were invisible. "Is that right?" he said. "This is what people do now? Send a child into a boardroom with a sad story? I'm not lying. I'm sure you believe that. My mom needs help." He crouched just enough to bring his face closer to Eli's. "Listen carefully. I do not know your mother. I do not know you. And I do not reward stunts like this." Eli felt heat rush into his eyes, but he fought it back. The guard stepped closer. "Take him downstairs," the man said. Desperation hit like lightning. "Wait!" Eli yanked open his backpack, pulled out the photo, and threw it onto the shining conference table. It slid across the wood and stopped right in front of the billionaire. "Please," Eli said, his voice breaking now. "Just look!" The man glanced down with open irritation. Then he saw it, and the room changed. The smile vanished from Reed Blackwell's face, as if someone had cut the strings holding it there. For one long second, he did not move at all. Then his hand reached for the photograph. His finger stopped just above it, trembling once before he picked it up. Eli saw the color drain from his face. The room around them stayed silent, but it was no longer the same silence. This one had weight. This one felt like the moment before a storm split the sky. "Where did you get this?" Reed asked. His voice had changed. The cold edge was gone. In its place was something raw and shaken. "My mom kept it in a box under her bed," Eli said. "She said it was important." Reed stared at the picture again. His thumb hovered over a small mark on the wrist of his younger self in the photo. A tattoo, barely visible, just dark enough to notice if you knew where to look. The blonde woman stood up sharply. "Reed, this is absurd. We are in the middle of a board meeting." He did not look at her. "Everyone out," he said quietly. No one moved. He lifted his head, and this time his voice cracked through the room like a whip. "I said out." Chairs scraped. Papers gathered. People filed out with confused faces and careful silence. Some glanced at Eli with pity. Others looked annoyed. The blonde woman stayed where she was. "Reed," she said, her tone low and dangerous. "You are not thinking clearly. Out, Victoria." Her eyes hardened. For a moment, she looked straight at Eli, and the boy felt cold all the way down to his shoes. Then she turned and walked out without another word. The door closed. Now it was only the two of them in the big glass room. Eli stood by the door with his backpack hanging open and his heart pounding in his throat. Reed stood at the far end of the table, staring at the photo in his hand like it had risen from the dead. Finally he spoke. "The mark on my wrist." He swallowed. "It was a set of coordinates." Eli said nothing. "It led to Harbor Point Lighthouse on the coast of Maine." Reed's voice sounded strange, almost distant. "I had the tattoo removed 7 years ago. No one knew about it, except the woman who was there when I got it." He looked up. "Your mother's name is Lily?" Eli nodded. "Lily Carter." Reed closed his eyes for a second, and when he opened them again, he looked less like a billionaire and more like a man trying not to drown. "I thought she left me," he said. Eli frowned. "She didn't." "I know that now." Reed set the photograph down very carefully. 7 years ago, I came home from a business trip and she was gone. My mother told me Lily had taken money to disappear. She showed me papers, bank records, a signed agreement. She said Lily wanted a payoff and wanted out. Eli stared at him. "My mom can barely pay rent." A bitter laugh escaped Reed. "Yes, I can see that." "Then why did you believe it?" The question landed hard. Reed turned toward the windows. Chicago spread below them in cold gray lines and moving lights. He put one hand against the glass and kept his back to Eli. "Because I was young," he said. Because I had just taken over the company after my father died. Because everyone around me wanted something from me. Because my mother told me what I feared most. He paused. She told me Lily never loved me. That she saw money and took her chance. That's not true. No. Reed's voice dropped. It isn't. He turned back slowly. There was something broken in his face now. Something honest. Was she pregnant when she left? He asked. Eli blinked. Left? When she was forced away. Reed corrected himself, like the words hurt. Was she already carrying you? I guess so, Eli said. I'm 8. Reed covered his mouth with one hand. His shoulders tightened. For a moment he looked like he could not breathe. Then he looked at Eli fully. Not like a problem. Not like an interruption. Not like a scam. Like a father looking at his son. You have her eyes when you're scared, he said quietly, and mine when you're angry. Eli's chest felt tight. This was the part he had imagined so many times. His father seeing him. His father knowing. But the real thing felt too big and strange to hold. My mom is really sick, he said. That's why I came. Reed crossed the room in 3 quick steps and crouched in front of him. What's wrong with her? The doctor said pneumonia first, then something else in her lungs. They keep changing the words. Eli's voice started shaking now, no matter how hard he tried to stop it. She coughs all night. She tries to hide it, but I hear her. She gets tired just walking to the bathroom. We don't have enough money for the medicine, and she said not to worry, but I know she's getting worse. Reed's face tightened with every word. She needs help, Eli whispered. I didn't know what else to do. For a second, neither of them moved. Then Reed reached out and pulled Eli into his arms. It happened so fast, Eli did not even think about stepping away. He was suddenly pressed against a warm dress shirt that smelled faintly of cedar and coffee. Reed held him carefully, but tightly too, like he was afraid to let go now that he had found him. I'm sorry, Reed said into his hair. God, I'm sorry. The words shook. Not polished, not controlled. Real. Eli felt his own tears come then, hot and sudden. All the fear he had stuffed down that morning broke loose at once. She's all I have, he cried. I'm not supposed to do this by myself, I'm just a kid. I know, Reed's voice cracked. You should never have had to. The conference room door opened. Victoria Blackwell swept back in without knocking. Her silver suit looked sharp enough to cut skin. Her face was calm, but only in the way ice looks calm before it breaks. She took in the scene at once. Reed kneeling, Eli crying, the photograph on the table. What exactly do you think you're doing? She asked. Reed stood up slowly, one hand still on Eli's shoulder. What should have been done 8 years ago? Victoria gave a thin smile. You are letting yourself be manipulated by a child and a forged picture. It's real. Reed. The tattoo is real. The lighthouse is real. Lily is real. At the sound of Lily's name, something flickered in Victoria's eyes. It was gone so fast Eli almost thought he imagined it. She folded her arms. Even if this woman dragged that boy here, it proves nothing. Reed looked toward the door. Mason. His assistant appeared almost instantly. Call genetics, Reed said. I want a rapid paternity test done now. Victoria took one sharp step forward. Absolutely not. Reed did not raise his voice, but the room seemed to tighten around it anyway. Now. Mason nodded once and vanished. Victoria's calm finally cracked. You are about to drag this company into scandal because some woman from a cheap apartment has decided to crawl back into your life. She didn't crawl anywhere, Reed said. My son came to find me. The words hit the room like a strike of thunder. My son. Eli looked up at him. Reed looked down at Eli too, and this time there was no doubt in his face, only grief and anger and something fierce enough to feel like love trying to find its way back. Victoria's expression turned cold again. "If you do this," she said, "there will be consequences." Reed's jaw tightened. There already are. An hour later, Eli sat in a bright private lab on the 54th floor while a doctor in blue gloves swabbed the inside of his cheek. Reed sat across from him and did the same. Neither spoke much after that. There was too much waiting in the room. Outside the glass wall, the city moved on as if nothing had changed. Inside, Eli stared at the sealed test kit on the counter and thought of his mother alone in their apartment, waking up to an empty room and a missing son. He gripped the edge of the chair. "Dad," he said softly, trying the word for the first time. Reed looked at him at once. Before either of them could speak again, Mason rushed into the lab with a pale face and a phone in his hand. "Mr. Blackwell," he said, breathless, "we have a problem. A hospital just called. They're saying Ms. Lily Carter collapsed an hour ago, and she may not have much time left." Reed was already on his feet before Mason finished speaking. "Which hospital?" "Mercy General, Southside Charity Ward." Eli slid off the chair so fast it nearly tipped over. His heart turned cold and heavy in the same instant. "We have to go now." Reed did not waste a second. "Call the roof," he told Mason. "Get the helicopter ready, and alert my medical team. Pulmonary, cardiology, emergency response. Everyone." Mason hurried out. The doctor started to say something about the test still processing, but Reed cut him off with one look. Then he took Eli's hand, firm and steady, and led him toward the elevator. Victoria stood waiting in the hallway. Of course she did. She looked between them, then at Reed's face, and whatever she saw there made her own expression sharpen. "You are making a mistake. My son's mother is dying. We do not know that boy is your son yet." Reed stepped closer. His voice was low enough to chill the air. "I know." Victoria lifted her chin. "And even if he is, this changes nothing. That woman made her choice years ago." "No," Reed said. "You made it for her." For the first time, Victoria's mask slipped. Not much. Just enough for Eli to see something ugly underneath. Fear. Not fear of losing Reed. Fear of losing control. "Reed," she said, quieter now, like she was changing tactics. "Everything I did to protect this family. You destroyed my family." The words hit like a slammed door. Reed tightened his hold on Eli's hand and kept walking. Victoria turned with him, heels clicking on the marble floor. "If you walk away now, the board will turn on you." "Then let them. You could lose the company." Reed pressed the elevator button. "Then I lose it." The doors opened. He stepped inside with Eli. Just before they closed, Victoria's voice cut after them like broken glass. "You will regret this." Reed looked at her without blinking. "I already do." The helicopter ride felt too fast and too slow at the same time. Chicago spread under them in gray lines and wet rooftops. Rain streaked across the windows. Eli sat strapped in beside Reed, clutching the faded photo in one hand and his backpack in the other. He could not stop bouncing his knee, could not stop imagining his mother alone, calling his name, wondering where he had gone. Reed reached over and covered Eli's shaking hand with his own. "She's going to see you," he said. "You hear me? She's going to see you." Eli nodded, but he could not speak. When the helicopter dropped toward Mercy General, the first thing Eli saw was the ambulance outside the side entrance. The second was a wheelchair in the rain. And in that wheelchair was his mother. "Mom!" The helicopter had barely landed before he tore off his headset and ran. Reed was right behind him. Rain slapped the pavement. Nurses shouted. A security guard reached for Eli, then stepped back when he saw the look on the boy's face. Lily Carter sat slumped in the wheelchair in a hospital gown, an oxygen tank rattling beside her. Her dark hair clung wetly to her cheeks. She looked so pale that for one terrible second, Eli thought he was too late. Then her eyes opened. Eli. He threw himself against her knees, wrapping his arms around her as carefully as he could. I'm sorry I left. I had to go. I found him. Her weak hand moved to his hair. Baby, what did you do? I found Dad. She went still. A shadow fell over them. Lily looked up. Reed stood in the rain, soaked through, breathing hard, his eyes locked on her face like he had been searching for it in every room for 8 years. Lily, he said. His voice broke on her name. She stared at him as if the world had opened and given one impossible thing back. Reed? I didn't know. He stepped closer. Rain ran down his face, but Eli could still see the tears in his eyes. I swear to you, I didn't know. My mother told me you took money and left. She showed me papers. I believed her. I was young and stupid, and I believed her. Lily's mouth trembled. She came to me. Reed dropped to one knee in the rain beside her wheelchair. She said if I stayed, she would ruin me, Lily whispered. She had lawyers, investigators. She knew about my grandmother. She said she could make trouble for all of us. She said she would take my baby from me before she ever let me build a life with you. Reed shut his eyes. I had no money, Lily said. No power. No one who could fight people like that. I thought if I ran, at least our son would be safe. Our son. Reed looked at Eli, then back at Lily. She let out one small, broken laugh through her oxygen mask. He has your eyes. I tried to pretend he didn't, but he does. Reed reached for her hand, with the same care a man might use to touch something holy. You should have told me. I was afraid you would choose her. I did choose her, he said, pain cutting through every word. That's what I have to live with. For a moment, no one moved. Rain fell. Nurses hovered. The city kept rushing around them. Then Lily started coughing. A deep, tearing cough that bent her forward and shook her whole body. Reed stood instantly. Get her upstairs, he snapped at the hospital staff. No. Forget upstairs. She's coming with us. One of the nurses hesitated. Sir, we can't just transfer a patient without— You can, Reed said, all softness gone now, because I'm authorizing a full emergency transfer to Blackwell Medical, and if anyone delays that by even 1 minute, I will remember their name. No one argued after that. Within 20 minutes, Lily was inside the private medical wing at Halcyon Tower, surrounded by specialists, monitors, white lights, and machines Eli did not understand. The doctors moved quickly. Words flew through the air. Severe infection, autoimmune markers, fluid in the lungs, high risk but treatable if they acted now. Eli sat in a chair by the door, wet socks cold inside his shoes, watching it all with wide, tired eyes. Reed stood beside him the whole time. When the lead doctor finally turned and said, She's stable for now, Eli sagged with relief so hard he almost slipped off the chair. Reed caught him before he fell. Hours later, the room was quiet. Lily slept in the hospital bed, with soft light over her face. Her breathing was easier now. Machines hummed in calm little rhythms. Outside the giant window, the city glowed gold and white in the dark. Eli sat in a chair near the bed. Reed sat beside him, jacket gone, tie gone, sleeves rolled up. He looked tired in a real way now. Human, not polished. The door opened, and Mason stepped in with a tablet in his hand. He did not need to say anything. Reed took one look at the screen and closed his eyes. Then he turned to Eli. "It's confirmed," he said quietly. "I'm your father." Eli just stared at him. He had known. Somewhere deep down, he had always known. But hearing it said out loud made the whole world tilt a little. Reed gave a soft, broken laugh. "That should have happened a long time ago." Eli looked toward his sleeping mother. "She always said some people build walls so high they forget there's a world on the other side." Reed swallowed. She was right. "Are you going to go away again?" The question was small, barely above a whisper, but it hit Reed harder than anything else that day. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, and answered with no space left for lies. "No, I can't fix the years I lost. I can't give you back birthdays, or school plays, or nights when you were sick and needed me. But I am not leaving again." Eli nodded once. Then, slowly, he leaned sideways until his shoulder touched Reed's arm. Reed stayed still for a second, like he understood how careful a moment like that was. Then he put an arm around Eli and pulled him close. They sat that way until Lily woke. Her eyes opened slowly, confused at first, then clearer. She looked at Eli, then at Reed, then at their joined shoulders. A tired little smile touched her mouth. "You found each other," she whispered. Eli stood and rushed to her bedside. "We found you too." Reed came to the other side of the bed. "I'm going to make this right," he said. Lily looked at him for a long time. "You can't make it right." He flinched, but nodded. "Then I'll spend the rest of my life trying to do better." That made something soften in her face. A week later, the newspapers exploded. Reed Blackwell acknowledged his son. Victoria Blackwell resigned from the board, though resigned was not the word the lawyers used behind closed doors. Investigations began. Old records surfaced. Fake documents. Coercion. Threats. A long trail of damage dressed up as family protection. Reed did not care about the headlines. He spent his days in the hospital room, in meetings with doctors, and in quiet talks with Eli over grilled cheese sandwiches and little cartons of milk. He learned that Eli loved space books, hated peas, and still slept with one hand tucked under his cheek. He learned that Lily painted lighthouses because they made her believe lost things could still be guided home. And Lily got stronger. Not all at once, not like magic. Slowly, her color came back. The coughing eased. She could stand without swaying. Then walk. Then laugh without running out of breath. Real healing, not storybook healing. The kind you have to choose again and again. 6 months later, the wind off Lake Haven smelled like salt and sun-warmed wood. The old lighthouse on the shore stood white against a blue afternoon sky. Beside it sat a small house with a wide porch, flower boxes under the windows, and a painting studio built onto the back where the light fell clean and steady all day long. Eli sat cross-legged on the porch steps with a soccer ball at his feet. Out on the grass, Reed was trying and failing to fly a kite. "Run faster!" Eli shouted, laughing. "I am running faster." "That's not fast. That's rich person jogging." Lily stepped out onto the porch, carrying 2 mugs of hot chocolate. Her hair was longer now. Her face was fuller. There was still softness in her health, still care in every breath she took. But she was here, strong enough to paint, strong enough to laugh, strong enough to lean in the doorway and smile like the future belonged to her again. "He's hopeless," she said. Eli grinned. "He really is." Reed jogged back toward them with the kite dragging behind him. His jeans were grass-stained. His shirt was untucked. He looked nothing like the man in the boardroom that day. He looked better, He dropped onto the porch beside them, breathless and smiling. Lily handed him a mug. He kissed her temple before taking it. Easy now, like love had learned how to live in daylight again. Eli watched them both, then looked toward the lighthouse. Its bright top turned slowly in the sun. Mom? Yes, baby? Are we happy now? Lily sat beside him and wrapped an arm around his shoulders. Reed leaned close on Eli's other side. She looked out at the water before answering. I think we're learning how to be, she said softly. And maybe that's better. Maybe happiness is something we choose every day. Reed nodded. I'd choose this every time. Eli smiled and leaned into both of them at once, fitting neatly between them, like the missing piece he had always been. The wind moved through the grass. The kite lifted at last, pulling free into the bright open sky. Reed laughed, a real laugh, warm and full, and nothing like the cold sound that once lived in a tower of glass. Eli looked up at him. Dad? Reed turned at once. Yeah? Thanks for coming back. Reed's eyes shone. He reached over Lily and ruffled Eli's hair. Thank you for finding me. They sat together on the porch as the sun dipped low and painted the water gold. Behind them, inside the house, one wall was covered with Lily's new paintings. Lighthouses, storms, shorelines, beams of light reaching through dark. Home, over and over again. And as the evening settled around them, Eli thought of the coins on the carpet, the cough in the next room, the train ride into the city, the photo sliding across polished wood. One brave step had changed everything, and for the first time in a long time, no one in that family was lost. If you believe stories still matter, go ahead and hit subscribe, Stories Beyond the Porch. Drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. I love seeing how far these stories travel. Thanks for watching.